Twisted readers.
Hey, everybody. We liked this book. We're going to tell you beforehand because we're not going to be total jerks.
No, we did like this book. So I have actually, so I've read this book 3 times.
Oh my God.
I read this book once all on my own. And then my friend Kristen, who I work with, who was on our podcast one time, got the book, was like, I'm so excited about this book I just got. So I reread it. Maybe I didn't reread it all. Maybe I just reread the end, like to make sure I remembered what happened so that we could talk about it. And then you said, "Oh, I'm reading It's the Housemaid
Hmm.
by Freida McFadden." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, I should reread it again if we're going to talk about it because it had been a long time since I read it.
Yeah.
Like I remembered the gist, but I wouldn't have remembered like the characters' names or anything. So I reread it again.
So I listened to the audio. Jen reads the words. So sometimes we have a different take because I will tell you that Millie had a New York accent
Oh,
in
what?
the audio version, which made her, and I'm not, look, I'm from the North, but it made her not immediately likable. I don't know why. And I'm not saying that then it was just the manner in which her character was being read.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have listened to books that I'm like, mm-mm. It's kind of like seeing a movie and being like, yep, that's not what they look like at all. And
Right.
I don't like it. Yeah.
All right. So
Interesting.
let's get into it.
Yeah, yeah. So the housemaid, and absolutely now this is gonna give it away why Kim and I both chose this book. An absolutely addictive psychological thriller with a jaw-dropping twist.
It wasn't quite jaw-dropping. Maybe it was my mouth was slightly agape. It was ajar.
Ajar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
and
like,
I
huh.
liked okay, so should I start by reading
Yeah,
like the
read the and
summary of
again,
it?
this is full of spoilers.
Okay.
So if you haven't read the book, don't listen unless you don't want to read the book.
Welcome to the family, Nina Winchester says as I shake her elegant manicured hand. I smile politely, gazing around the marble hallway. Working here is my last chance to start fresh. I can pretend to be whoever I like, but I'll soon learn that the Winchester's secrets are far more dangerous than my own. Every day I clean the Winchesters' beautiful house top to bottom. I collect their daughter from school, and I cook a delicious meal for the whole family before heading up to eat alone in my tiny room on the top floor. I try to ignore how Nina makes a mess just to watch me clean it up, how she tells strange lies about her own daughter, and how her husband Andrew seems more broken every day. But as I look into Andrew's handsome brown eyes so full of pain, it's hard to imagine what it would be like. It's hard not to imagine what it would be like to live Nina's life. The walk in closet, the fancy car, the perfect husband.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
then this is this. Okay, I'm going to read this out loud to you and you tell me what you think of this. This is part of the summary. I only try on one of Nina's pristine white dresses once just to see what it's like, but she soon finds out. And by the time I realize my attic bedroom door only locks from the outside, it's far too late.
She gave her a bag of
So this makes zero sense if you have read this book
No, it
because
doesn't.
number one, she notices the very first day that the room locks on the outside, not on the
Hmm.
inside.
Hmm.
First day. First moment she sees the room, she notices this.
Yes.
Second of all, the she did try on one of Nina's pristine white dresses because Nina gave her a bag of clothing that no longer fit her.
Hmm.
So
And she
she
wore it
actually
out on a
wore the dress
date with
with the
it was
husband.
fun. So let's start from the beginning. All right.
But I mean, I really like this book, but now I've got to say I have less faith if the author can't summarize it. Maybe the author doesn't do that book description.
I don't know if the author always does the book description, but I think McFadden's pretty well
She is so well known.
she is. She's amazing. But there is quite a few trigger warnings in here as far as domestic abuse, attempted death, and just complete gaslighting from hell. Um,
Yes.
so let's start from basically the interview where Millie or Wilhelmina is interviewing at Nina's house.
Yes.
Okay. We know that there's something in her past, and we all know that you can have a background check. 'Cause that one stuck out to me immediately, that this was a wealthy woman and we didn't think she knew about Millie's
Getting a
past.
background. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, like Millie thought that the reason Nina must never have done a background check is just because she felt like they like jived so well.
Right. Which is not a realistic thought at all.
Right. If I'm hiring someone to live in my home, like live in my home, take care of my child, etc., I'm gonna do a background check. But
Yeah. So I thought that was I mean, I believed it just because Millie was desperate, and so was, now that I know what happened, Nina was desperate too at that point.
yes. So she gets the job. She was living in her car.
Yes.
So she was living in her car. She had been fired from a restaurant job. She felt like this was her
hmm
last chance. So
hmm
like a week goes by where she's like, she applied even to a fast food restaurant, didn't get hired. And then she gets a phone call from Nina, like, can you start tomorrow type of situation.
Which seems a little bit too good to be true. And when it does seem too good to be true, it usually is.
Too
So
good to
once
be
she
true.
gets into the house, the day that she was there, the house is really clean and pristine and
Immaculate.
just nothing out of place. The first day she starts, it is a freaking pigsty.
Nightmare mess, like
Mhm.
old food, pizza boxes, like on
Mhm.
the like does not match what the initial impression was
No. And she's
at
having to clean
all.
up like weird messes, like these
Like
messes.
almost done on purpose
They were
messes.
do almost almost, right?
Yeah.
Um, so then Nina starts accusing her of things that didn't happen, like the quintessential freaking gaslight. And I was really amused by McFadden, the way McFadden did it, because she did it so well in the book.
Mhm.
And then as a true gaslighter, you deny it in front of anybody else. Like you say something to somebody, you make them believe something. And then I think what was the first one? One of the first ones
The
was
first ones were the PTO
the
notes or
PTO notes.
PTA, PTO, PTA. They're different things, different places. Oh my gosh. So yeah, she comes in like Millie has just gotten the kitchen looking beautiful. Maybe she's cooking dinner.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. But Nina comes in and is like, where are my notes? They were right here on the counter. And she's like, I know I didn't throw your notes away. I know I didn't throw them away. And but like Nina like trashes the kitchen looking for them. Like dumps the garbage out on the floor type of shit.
And so then the child, who I think the description of the child from the beginning was really freaking funny because the kid is dressed in like high-necked lacy dresses.
Yes, the
And
type
she's a
of
little
yeah,
bitch. She's just a little bitch. And Millie keeps saying, I hope she doesn't kill me in my sleep. Is this a haunted house? I mean, she's making really funny like comments like we would make if we met a kid like that.
yes, for sure.
Oh, and then the peanut butter.
Oh yeah, that was so weird.
Okay. So Millie is with Cecilia, who is the little kid. And she said, I'll make you a snack. And, she wasn't in love with the kid, but she still, was trying to kind of get along with her. So she said, what about peanut butter and crackers or something? And the little girl starts having a fit saying she's allergic to it. Then
But
then
uh
Nina was, and then Millie's like, why would you have this peanut butter in here if she was allergic? And
like it
then
was front and center on the pantry,
yes. And Nina's like, you should have known. I told you. And
but she didn't tell her.
Cecilia's like, she was trying to hurt me. And so that was the whole confusing thing, and she felt badly for it. And then later, she tells Andrew, the husband, um, he he was on the couch, and he said, "Would it be rude if I just got the peanut butter out and started eating it?" And she's like, "Well, at least don't do it in front of Cecilia." And he's like, "Why?" She said, "Because she's allergic." And Andrew said, "No, she's not allergic." So Cecilia and Nina played this game to screw with Millie.
Except later on, we find out she really is allergic.
What the hell? Yes.
I like the way, you know how like when there's two different viewpoints, sometimes the author switches back and forth chapter Millie's point of view, chapter Nina's point of view, chapter Millie, chapter Nina. She didn't do that. She did part one that was all Millie's point of view.
Hmm.
Then you get Nina's point of view.
Yes. Okay, so Millie's going through a long lot of time with the gaslighting and the messes in the house. Um, then we find out somehow that Nina has a history of psychotic episodes.
Yes.
So hold on to your hats with that one because we come back to that later in the story. And that she almost hurt her child, and so she was put in a facility and she was then let out of the facility. So this is
Mhm.
kind of like the stigma she's working her life through. And that's why in the book it's so well done that you're thinking she's having psychotic moments with Millie because of her experience. Because then it makes more sense when she's already had an episode and that maybe she's still recovering or the medicine, you know what I'm saying? Like it was
Yeah,
believable in that
it
instance
was.
what she was doing.
The perception is that Nina and her husband Andrew are trying to have a baby and they get devastating news that she will never have a baby.
Right.
Um, and so I think that was the reason that Andrew asked Millie to book tickets to Nina's favorite play, a
Yes.
stay at a nice hotel. They were going to go into the city, etc. And so Millie asked Nina like when she would want the tickets to be,
Right.
and Nina tells her, and then when they're given the tickets, she's like, "What the hell were you thinking? That's the day I said I couldn't go." Like more
Yes.
gaslighting.
Hmm.
And so in the end, she's like, "I'm taking Cecilia, the little girl,
Cecilia. I think it's Cecilia.
Cecilia to camp that day." I said that, like,
Yep.
well, so it sets it up perfectly that in the end, Millie and the husband are going to go to the play together.
So this is the point where I was taken out of the story just a little bit. And again, think of having her talking with this, kind of abrupt accent. And she's like, we're only just going. And, she's noticing that Andrew's looking at her, looking at her legs. She's wearing one of Nina's dresses, and he, of course, couldn't keep his eyes off of her. And I couldn't quite get, like, was Millie a beautiful woman trying to hide it, or was she just an average woman? But Nina was, I could never figure out if she was just
So, well, I know that when she went to the interview, she tried to like dull her looks down by like
fake
wearing
glasses.
fake
Oh, the
glasses,
glasses. Yeah.
and she did her hair, and like I think she was supposed to be a very beautiful person.
Well, she wore glasses on the interview. This is before the date. And then Nina notices you're not wearing glasses. And it was just like a thing. And then she's, well, I have contacts in. And then Nina, I guess, snooped to find out she doesn't have any contact lens solution.
Solution.
So then Millie has to like completely, embarrass herself to say she lied or
They
whatever.
were
Because that
just
was
for
just a
looks. Like,
weird,
well,
very
yeah,
awkward one. So basically here we are with Nina and Cecilia out of town.
yeah.
Andrew's like, we can't let these go to waste. And now Millie is like, sure, I'll go out with you and have a date with you. And it's all innocent and I'm all dolled up. And and then she kept justifying, well, we're just going out. She'll never know, whatever. So then they go out after the play, they go out to dinner. And here's the other thing. I think there were two bottles of wine, but Andrew acted so drunk after the like they both shared two bottles. Now, I'm not saying that drinking a bottle of wine, you're not a little tipsy, but he was like knocked down, drag out from what I got the impression of, because then they go to the hotel that they had that was
Right. And
set
this
aside.
was a fancy ass dinner that would have taken a long time,
Mhm.
not they drank 2 bottles of wine and the time it takes to eat a quarter pounder.
Right. I think it was two bottles. It was something like that's
It
not
was two
abnormal.
bottles.
It was not
Yeah,
abnormal. Um, and then he's like, well, I can't drive. What could have been his weirdo thing too, acting a little more, inebriated than he was. And then, of course, they end up sleeping together.
of course.
And then when they go back, then we start seeing Millie kind of, I don't know, her attitude changes a little bit because she can't see anything wrong with Andrew, like nothing.
Nothing wrong. Now, there's also a gardener named Enzo.
Enzo. Mm-hmm.
Enzo, who is always in their yard working, and he warned her right when she first started that she was in danger in Italian. She looked it up and
Means
he said
dangerous.
danger. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dangerous. And so she assumed that meant that it was Nina who
Yeah.
was dangerous.
Okay, so now we go to part two,
Part
right?
two, it is Nina's point of view from the beginning. It starts with her as a single mom of the child. So the child, Cecilia, is not Andrew's child. And
Right.
that is explained in the first part. She's his stepdaughter, except and he never adopts her or anything. So it starts with her as a young single mom working in, I think, like a law firm.
Yes.
She's the personal assistant to one of the lawyers, and Andrew comes in for a meeting. This meeting goes really, really late. And Nina is sitting there, and because she has this young baby at home, her breasts start leaking. She goes in to the office to deliver something in, and her boss, lawyer, like yells, screams, degrades,
It
is a
really was
total
so
asshole.
inappropriate, the reaction to the breast leakage. Like it
Like,
happened.
I feel like anybody who has been around the block for a moment or two would know that that would be an HR compliance issue, like
Oh,
right
hell yeah.
away, and that would have never happened. But then Andrew was the lawyer he was meeting with, and he seeks her out in the bathroom and basically sweeps her off her feet.
But did he go into the bathroom?
I think he did.
Yeah,
Or
it was.
no, or he was waiting outside the door, and when she came out, he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
Yeah, that scene wasn't let. I mean, I just don't know anybody who would yell at somebody because I've had that happen to me, and it's like you can't freaking help it. It just
Yeah,
happens.
it
Okay,
does just
so
happen.
then they date.
They date. He sweeps her off her feet. And then basically we find out that he is a sadistic effing monster. He locked her in
This is
the
Andrew
attic
and Nina.
bedroom.
This
Andrew
is.
and Nina, the
Mhm.
wife. He would lock her in the bedroom for small transgressions. You sprayed too much air freshener, pepper spray yourself. And he'd like lock her in this at that attic bedroom that is now
Mhm.
Millie's bedroom,
Mhm.
which, spoiler alert, that is why Nina hired Millie. Part of the reason was
Yes.
now that room is belongs to Millie, and you can't lock me up in there, motherfucker.
And she kind of wanted someone to take her place.
She did. So basically, we find out all along, like, that she was setting Millie up on purpose. She hired Millie because even though she was pretending to not be attractive, she could see how attractive she was. And she hired her because of her past.
Hmm.
And so she knew full well about her being in prison and knew that made her desperate. She picked a style of person that she knew Andrew would fall in love with. She yelled at her on purpose because she knew that he liked to be the prince in shining armor, the
Yes.
knight in shining armor. Like he came to her rescue after the breast milk leakage incident.
Isn't that
She yelled
called
at her
love
about the
bombing?
PTO notes.
Love bombing
Is it?
I think when they just
No.
shower you, it's
Yeah.
narcissistic with all the things all at one time, and it's very overwhelming.
Yes. So she basically set her up to get the attention off of herself. Enzo knew that Nina was being
Abused.
abused. He had a sister who was abused by a very similar man. And so she had his full help, but then he felt so bad that basically they set Millie up to be in the exact same situation.
Well, and
But
then the whole issue with her being in a facility, a mental facility, is that Andrew had drugged Nina and Cecilia and put Cecilia in the bathtub, and it made it look like Nina did it.
hmm
So that gives her a psychiatric hospital with a diagnosis of depression and delusions, ensuring that nobody's going to believe anything she says.
yes, basically
Which
he makes her.
and Enzo is supposed to be this. His character was a little odd too, because all the women were after him. Nina did her research
Mhm.
and had a private investigator actually find Millie.
So we never know why Millie is in prison until towards the end, and she's in prison, which is why Nina wanted her because she walked in on a guy raping her best friend
Hmm.
and she beats him to death. Like she picks up a paperweight or a something and like basically hits him over the head until he is dead to protect her friend. So Nina knows this about Millie. And so that is another reason she wasn't just picked to replace her. She was picked because she would kill him.
Right. That was the whole idea. Um, so basically, Andrew throws Nina out, which is really what she wanted.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and then he returns to Millie, tells Millie that she can stay in the house, and then he locks Millie in the attic,
Yep.
and he can see her through a series of cameras.
Cameras. Hmm.
So he starts his reign of terror with Millie after Nina leaves, and
Hmm.
so apparently then that evening or the day before, she had left some books out on the coffee table or somewhere.
So that was her transgression.
Yeah, so these transgressions, like I think Nina's transgression was that she had roots, that her dark roots were showing through her blonde hair, and she
Yes.
stopped caring about how she looked because she didn't care anymore because she wasn't going to be trophy wife for a sadistic fucking idiot, horrible person.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, after Nina leaves and Andrew just shows his true colors, he's like, you messed up. He's locked in the room. I'm locking you in the room. And he says he has some books, very heavy, heavy books that he's left in the attic. And he
Hmm.
says that she has to balance them on her stomach for 3 hours
She
because
has to lay down and yeah, put them
she
on her stomach.
didn't replace them. So she's there for 2 hours and 59 minutes. And she says she's done, but he says no, that wasn't 3 hours. Millie pepper sprays him when he walks in
She has
because
pepper spray because Nina left her pepper
there was a
spray.
bucket where they went to the bathroom. They had used the bathroom in a bucket, and in the bucket there was pepper spray. So when Andrew came in, Millie had at it. And then she locked him in the attic and tortured him. This was like the part of the book where like, fuck yeah, man. Because she's getting
Yeah.
back at him.
Like she had him put the same books on his genitals. Like
Hmm.
he had to lay down and put them on his genitals. And like she said like 3 hours. And then she was came back up and she was like, no, I didn't say 3 hours. I said 5 hours, but you need to start all the way over. And all the water was gone because he had given her three tiny bottles of water, but obviously she didn't replace them because she was being tortured. So he
Hmm.
didn't have anything to drink. She went and got the pliers that she could, I don't know, somehow squeeze under the door. That was quite a big gap.
Yep. She kept saying, I'll let you out if you do this. I'll let you out if you do this. And then she had him pull his own teeth out.
Yes. Yes.
Meanwhile, Enzo, the gardener, realizes that he's watching the house and Millie hasn't left in days. So he calls Nina because Nina and Enzo have a good relationship. Platonic.
And Nina had picked up Cecilia and had taken her, was on there, like on her way to Disney World with her or Disneyland.
And we also find out that Andrew dressed Cecilia like that for no good reason, and she was made fun of at school for the way she dressed. Nina really wasn't in because Enzo was like, "You're going to do the same thing. It's not fair. We need to help Millie." And Nina's like, "Fuck that shit. You slept with my husband," and he's like, "You made that. You kind of made that happen. Like you didn't.
Yeah.
You don't make people have affairs." But she set the groundwork and put all the little Easter eggs out for everybody to find.
Hmm.
Nina goes to the house thinking that she's going to find Millie locked upstairs in the attic.
Hmm.
She finds Andrew's decomposing remains. And then Millie shows up and says, I did it. And he's been in there for almost 6 days. She starts crying because she doesn't want to go back to prison.
Hmm.
Not wanting Millie to bear the consequence of something she tricked her into doing, Nina says, go ahead and go. I got this. So the detective is now interrogating Nina.
Who says that he must have gotten accidentally locked in the attic. He must have gone up there to check on something and he got locked in there.
During the interrogation, Nina learns that his daughter was once engaged to Andrew. So we've got all these little connecting pieces. So the detective's daughter
Yes.
was engaged.
To Andrew and
Something happened. She moved away. The detective never says what's happened. So he kind of goes along with this really crazy idea that he accidentally locked himself in The
Yeah, he's like, I am sure my medical examiner would agree that that was just an unfortunate accident.
and on top of this, this was a little much, this piece of it. At his funeral, the mom,
Yeah.
this was a little over the top for me, but again, it's such a good book and so well written and so well developed that you let this shit go. It's when you have really shitty books that you can't let stuff go. So basically, Evelyn, the mom, tells Nina that she disciplined Andrew as a child in similar manner, and to the way that
Oh, yeah, like she
she
didn't
tortured
take care of
him.
his baby teeth, so she took out
Mhm.
one of his baby teeth. So she was like, he deserved this, basically.
So how did they know about the teeth? There's there a connection there? That's what I was wondering.
I'm sure as his parents, they would have known
How did
that.
Millie
They would have,
know to do his teeth, though?
oh, Millie, I think it was just random.
It was random. Okay.
It was random.
Then Cecilia go to California. Millie lives off money that Nina is sending her after Andrew dies. And then about a year later, Millie interviews for a job at another household that Nina recommended. It's really interesting the way she realizes this woman has been abused. And then she kind of puts things together
Hmm.
that now she's being sent to right the wrongs of the abusive men. And that's where it stops because she sees
Yep.
bruises on her arm, on the person's
Yeah, it
arm.
is.
And then you just wonder,
That she's been hired to basically be a new vigilante. She's like,
yes.
Nina said you can help me, and like kind of moved her shirt sleeve
Hmm.
to show the bruises. And
So I thought
yeah,
it was, I honestly would say 4.5, or
yeah.
more than 4.5. I just think it was um, lots of twists and turns, and the characters were pretty well developed. I would have liked to have known more about Andrew and his child, like a perspective from Andrew
Oh, yeah, that would have been dark as hell.
to see that because, thinking about people who are kind of evil, they don't know that they're evil. They're just
Oh,
trying to right the wrongs of like, you left the books out, you should color your hair, and to get into his psyche about the
ooh.
crazy shit he was doing. I think that would have been another layer that would have
Hmm.
been very interesting in the story.
Well, I feel like he would have known that Nina was manipulating him.
I believe so because she wanted out.
I feel like he would have I mean, everything should have been, I mean, unless she had just so played the meek woman, but he knew she wasn't literally crazy. So when she acted crazy, even though everybody else thought it was within character, he should have known it wasn't within
Right,
character.
right.
So that is a little like you have to suspend disbelief, but it was a good book.
Well, most people probably don't have like it was, and I know that um she's like a favorite to many of the people who do book reviews on TikTok and stuff like that. So she is a
Yeah.
favorite.
So she actually there is it's a sequel, we think. It's so the first one was The Housemaid, and the second one is called The Housemaid's Secret. It is also a totally gripping psychological thriller with a shocking twist.
I know
Yeah,
we're stuck on psychological thrillers because that's really, I mean, that's what I like.
that's who we are.
My daughter Serena sent me A Court of Thorns and Roses. So she's all
Okay.
over that. I did read The Inmate, which I had a few small issues with.
Yeah, I liked it,
I
but
do like it. There were some pieces of it that I don't know.
I read The Inmate right after I read Jar of Hearts, and I felt like there were
Yeah,
similarities.
Jar of Hearts was good. And now I'm reading A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham.
Hmm.
Basically, it's about a woman whose father is did committed serial killer crimes like 20 years prior to where the book starts. It's
Well,
pretty
that's
interesting.
interesting. All right, everyone. Well, let us know what you're reading and
Yes.
stay
Stay twisted. Bye.
twisted. Bye.